Right, so in this video, we are going to see the rise of modern day Turkey, but for Turkey to be created, the Ottoman Empire has to collapse first. Now, the Ottoman Empire had been experiencing a slow decline over centuries. It was nicknamed the Sick Man of Europe, had lost most of its territory in the Balkans in the early 1900s. Now, there was an attempt to reform the Ottoman Empire and introduce a constitutional government, but that constitution was suspended by Sultan Abdul Hamid II, who resisted change. But then he himself was overthrown by a political group called the Young Turks, who bring back the constitution in 1908, but unfortunately end up getting the Ottoman Empire in an alliance with Germany during World War I, thus picking the losing side. If you remember from previous chapter, the British sent in the military officer T.E. Lawrence, Lawrence of Arabia, into the Ottoman Empire to encourage the Arabic tribes and princes to rebel and cause chaos in exchange for their own countries after the war is over. So they picked the losing side. Now, unfortunately, something that occurs during World War I is one of our first major genocides of the 20th century. The Ottoman Empire uses World War I almost like a mask or a screen to launch this genocide of the Armenians. The Armenians were an ethnic minority within the Ottoman Empire that had been advocating for their own country for quite a while. And the Ottomans decided to get rid of the Armenians and began to practice genocide or ethnic cleansing when you select one group to be wiped out, to be eliminated. And this is our first major genocide of the 20th century, and just an inkling of things to come. The most famous or infamous genocide of the 20th century being the Holocaust at the hands of the Nazis. So we'll see these terms, genocide and ethnic cleansing, quite a bit in the coming chapters. So the Ottomans picked the losing side, right? They picked the losing side, and things go from bad to worse after the war is over. If you look at this map in the center, that solid yellow, that was essentially the only part of the Ottoman Empire that the Ottoman government still directly controlled after the war. Everything where you see stripes, that was territory. Technically, it was Ottoman territory, but it was being ran by foreign governments like France, Britain, and Italy. To make matters worse, after World War I, Greece, kind of a relatively new country of Greece, launches an invasion and begins to take over parts of the Anatolian Peninsula, which you can see in that dark blue on the left-hand side of your screen. This was the final straw. People were so fed up with the Ottoman government, and now you had the Greek invasion, and they had lost World War I, and all they controlled was that little bit there in solid yellow. Right, so this Greek invasion, this was it. Right, they have had enough. So there's going to be this Ottoman military officer arise named Mustafa Kemal, and he and leading military and government officials are going to gather together for a meeting and essentially announce that the Ottoman government just no longer exists. And the last sultan is overthrown. He has no support. He didn't have a choice. The Ottoman Empire is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. And in its place is modern day Turkey. And job number one is to drive the Greeks out and to end all the foreign influence. So, and that's what Mustafa Kemal does. They defeat the Greeks. They drive the Greeks out of the Anatolian Peninsula, and they drive out all the foreign influences until this brand new country of Turkey controls all the Anatolian Peninsula and a small piece in Europe. And they make the brand new capital of Ankara. Right? So the creation of modern day Turkey was based upon a nationalistic revolution led by a military officer to drive out all these foreigners. Now, Mustafa Kemal argued that one reason why the Ottoman Empire was so weak was it was backwards, that it had refused to modernize. So that's going to be job one for Mustafa Kemal, who becomes known as Kemal Ataturk. Right? Ataturk means father Turk. And as you can see on the screen, just by his dress, just by his appearance, you can see that he is going to embrace Western culture. He is going to modernize Turkey. Right? He's going to reform it. He's going to change it. He's going to modernize it. He is going to westernize it. One of the things he does is he introduces democracy. Now, it's highly controlled democracy. His political party is going to be the political party that controls Turkey for decades, but it was a democracy. He introduced a modern economy and industry, adopted the Roman alphabet, the same alphabet used in Europe to make trade and communication easier. begins to institute popular free education for males and females. Ataturk pointed out that it was illogical not to educate half of your society. That makes no sense. And he announced, we are going to educate our women as well, and they're going to have opportunities just like the men. So they could even vote in this new government. And for this area of the world, this was a big deal. He also announced that modern-day Turkey was going to be a secular state. What that means is the religion is not going to control or influence the government, and the government won't control or influence the religion either. A separation, what we call separation of church and state in this context, would be like a separation of mosque and state. The majority of the Turkish population was and still is Islamic. There's a Christian population. The majority were Muslim, and he announced that the Islamic religion and Islamic religious law is not going to be the law of the government. They're going to be two separate entities. He even encouraged and mandated the adoption of family names, last names, just like in Europe. It was rather interesting. The government published a list of pre-approved last names, and your family got to pick. And that's one reason why he changed his name from Mustafa Kemal to Kemal Ataturk. He was modeling that behavior. So he creates this modern secularized government. It's a quote from Kemal. He said, they will be Turkish in nation, Muslim in religion, but Western in culture. Now, if you look at modern day Iran, something similar happens. Iran used to be called Persia, and then when oil was discovered in Persia, foreign interference and influence increased until eventually there were those in Persia who got so tired of foreign interference, just like in Turkey, that a Persian military officer, just like a Turkish military officer, a Persian military officer named Reza Khan is going to arise, overthrow the Persian government, and create modern-day Iran. Right? And so you have, just like in Turkey, this is a nationalistic revolution to overthrow foreign influence led by a military officer named Reza Khan. He seizes the capital of Tehran. He overthrows Persia. He renames Persia Iran, renames himself Reza Shah Pahlavi, and begins to modernize Persia, just like Ataturk. Western industry, Western economy, Western education, with a key difference. Iran will not be a secular state. It will not be. It is not now. It is not a secular state. Government and religion was more closely tied together in Iran than in Turkey. But you have two brand new countries that were created by military officers that led a nationalistic revolution to overthrow foreign influence and interference.